Alexander. It is time for you to share with us your recommendations for return to school plan for Valle Crucis.
Meredith, are you running that computer for that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I have it.
Oh, you have it? Okay, we'll wait till we see it on the television then. While Bailey's getting that up and going, I just want to thank the staff of Valle Crucis School. The PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you actually is the work of Dr. Smith, Dr. Bettis, and then updates from Janet Tanner, Eric Bullock, and Monica Bullock. So thank you for the work. That staff has really just hit the ground running. I mean, not only have they had to deal with the impact of the hurricane like the rest of us, they've actually had to plan for how do we have school someplace completely different. So I just want to thank them for that. All right, so this is our Valle Crucis relocation plan. And these are our relocation plan priorities. So first of all, the priorities, as we heard some of our speakers say this evening, which I think is accurate, is the goal of the staff and the families to keep Valle Crucis students and staff together as much as possible and as close to the valley as possible. We also need to have a safe location for a school that holds 350 plus students and 50 staff members. And we want to say thank you to our generous community partners who have offered us spaces for Valle Crucis, and we're going to talk through a couple of those options today. All right, so we have the Valle Crucis Conference Center in Holy Cross, which is on the same campus, and so that is a picture to the left. And then the Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute is the picture to the right. And our current thinking with those campuses as they are now, we would attempt to house kindergarten through 5th grade at the Valle Crucis Conference Center and 6th grade through 8th grade at CCC and TI. Now, we did learn today that it's potential for applying for mobile classrooms, and if we can work that out in the future, then we can expand the space at Valle Crucis Conference Center if that's agreeable to them, and if we can make that happen. However, we want to get students back to school as soon as possible. So as we sit right now, these are the two options that we are considering. Pre-K. So our pre-K options, we have a couple, but their pre-K licensing restrictions are pretty intense. So it's not like you can just have preschool anywhere you want. And so what we're looking at right now is Dr. Bettis has worked with the Children's Council to consider two options. One would be reassigning pre-K students to open pre-K spots throughout the district. We know we can do that if that's what we need to do. However, we're looking at an emergency relocation of Valle Crucis classroom to ASU's Child Development Center. It's the Wildflower classroom. It's currently vacant. We know that it does meet all pre-K requirements. So there was a visit that happened there today, and so our team will regroup and discuss how that visit went. But those are the two options we have for pre-K right now. Okay, so just want to cover some basic topics with you guys just to kind of talk you through some of the thinking that the team has done around different aspects of what it would take to relocate the school. So transportation, the thought is that we would use the current Valle Crucis parking lot for the current school as the hub where all buses come. And then from there, we would have buses that would run to the conference center and to CCC and TI. We'd also do like a grab and go breakfast when they meet there at that location, and then they would disperse to the campuses where they would end up for the day. We would need to make sure that all elementary car ride or drop off and pickup happens at the current school. The Valle Crucis Conference Center is simply not, it's not designed where it could accommodate parent drop off and pickup. So that would need to happen from the current school. Middle school students would have the opportunity to drop off and pick up at VC or CCC and TI. So conversations are ongoing about what some type of sheltering would look like for when parents drop students off and prior to them getting on the bus if we do use the current school. It's possible that we could use an activity bus to shuttle students back from VCC and CCC, that's a lot of C's, CCC and TI. And then the VCS administration and office staff will have handheld bus radios for communication with all buses, so that the transportation communication that we're used to would continue. But I just list all those because to let you know there are a lot of moving pieces to this, and having to think through how all those things would work is what the team has been doing right now. But we feel like we have a pretty good plan for how we can make that work. Okay, safety. We know safety is a priority, and so how we would handle this moving forward is that there is an SRO at CCC and TI currently on that campus. Our thoughts is that we would take the current Valle Crucis SRO and locate that SRO at the conference center. They would work together and communicate, but we would be able to have that one on site at the conference center full time because there is already one in existence at CCC and TI. Okay, child nutrition, and so this one's a little more complicated. We're looking at different options. We're very thankful that the conference center does have a kitchen where food could be cooked. It would have to be distributed to not only the students at the conference center, but then we would have to run meals to CCC and TI. So it's going to take a little coordination, but we feel like we can make it happen. But we're just looking at the feasibility of how do we minimize the number of meal prep deliveries that we have to accommodate. So if we're able to have the breakfast drop and go at the current school when they load on the buses, that would cut down on one delivery option. Technology, so Dr. Schlady and her team have worked to relocate classroom technology. Each classroom will be outfitted with basic instructional technology, and Dr. Schlady and her team are working to make sure each site has adequate and safe access to the internet service. So instructional time, this is the next big lift, because if this is approved, then Dr. Smith and her team will need to look at, what does their new configuration look like? How will they work with the student day? How will they work with the enhancement teachers that have to serve kindergarten through 8th grade? And while it's not going to be perfect and it won't be exactly the same as it was before, the team feels confident that they can make it work so that students have a safe learning environment. After school care, so we will not be able to house the after school programming at either location, but conversations are taking place to maybe consider what it would look like to shuttle students from the conference center to another school site for students who need this service. So we're in conversation about that. Athletics, Valle Crucis is working with Mr. Curley, our athletic director for the district, to locate a gym location to finish volleyball season and to use for practice for middle school girls and boys basketball. So a gym facility is not something that exists on either the conference center or CCC and TI, so we would need to locate an alternate space for that because we want to make sure our kiddos get to have that option. All right, so immediate needs involve just basic classroom supplies and furniture, so we'll be working with Dr. Smith and her team on making sure they get that. We are looking at our long-term needs for the new school, but we feel pretty good about the FF&E package that we have coming in there. We've had generous offers of support from people throughout the community, even from other states, like the state of Kentucky sent us, the school sent us, district sent us $3,000 because they were flooded and then didn't need to use the money, and they forwarded it specifically for Valle Crucis. So our finance department's keeping a list of all people who make donations so that we can thank them, and then so those funds go to where they need to go appropriately. So we will be working to make sure that the students have their needs met in the temporary location, but also that they're ready to move into the new building in January, February, whenever that is done. So next steps, there's a lot of inspections that have to be done to make sure that we can move students into a place that is not currently a school. As was mentioned, the conference center used to be a school, but it's not been set up as a school right now. So we have to work through making sure that we're compliant to do that. So we've had the health inspector go out to the conference center, and we've had the fire inspector go out to the conference center. And so both individuals, so they feel good about that being a potential home for our Valle Crucis students. So we're just working through that to make sure that we're compliant with all those processes. And then the Valle Crucis staff's gonna have a meeting at 9 a.m. Tomorrow at the conference center to begin planning if this is approved. They will have to work on the master schedule and then ensure that special area and support staff placement is where it needs to be. Obviously, as one of our speakers mentioned, we want to communicate with parents as soon as we can. So we want to make sure they're in the loop as soon as we know what we can tell them. So that's something that we'll be working on, because there will be changes, obviously, in arrival and dismissal and overall communication. The other thing is that before we bring students back to school, which would be a pretty quick turnaround, hopefully, we would love to have orientations at both locations so families can see where their students would be, and then they can feel safe and comfortable with that decision. So the recommendation that I would like to ask the board for is if the board is comfortable delegating the authority to the superintendent and the board chair to enter into any lease agreements and licensing agreements that would be needed to make this move forward. And this is just a thank you slide to Dr. Blanton, Mr. Norman, the whole maintenance team, Valle Crucis staff, Ms. Burrow, Valle Crucis families, and the curriculum team and technology, and of course our community partners.
Thank you for this plan, and thank you to the Valle Crucis administration and faculty for your input into this. Let's just ask if any board member has any questions they'd like to ask you before we start any official actions on anything. So, Dr. Finbaker, can you still hear us okay, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing you fine.
Thank you. Anyone have a comment or question for the plan that's been proposed to Dr. Alexander?
I just want to say quickly, I appreciate all the forethought that goes into it, because that's a whole lot of moving parts when you start talking about, transitioning from places, what you have, all the safety things we put in place, and solidifying over the past few years, and then trying to re-solidify that for temporary times. I appreciate the work that everybody's done in doing that, putting this together. It's a lot of forethought.
Just echo that. I appreciate the thoroughness with which the work has been done, and also the collaborative spirit and can-do attitude everyone has displayed in coming together.
Dr. Finn, do you have any comments, sir, or questions?
Again, just echoing what other board members have said, and really appreciate the efforts to try to get our schools back to as close to normal as possible, as quickly as we're talking about doing so. I think that's just beneficial to our students and families, so thank you.
Absolutely. Just a couple of things. First, don't know what priority to say these, but when it became evident that we would not be able to go back into the current Valle Crucis School building, anytime in the near future, and we would need to return to school before we had a place for that staff and students. What was really nice is that we had people reaching out to Dr. Alexander saying, we may be able to help you. And that's been the spirit of cooperation in the community since the disaster hit. And I don't know if it's appropriate or not to recognize a couple of those people who reached out to us. But if it's not inappropriate, Mr. Ronnie Holstein, we would like to thank you for reaching out on behalf of Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute, and graciously offering some space that y'all have. And we know that that's going to be a challenge for you, but the space is there, and so we're very grateful for you reaching out. We had another person reach out, but we probably can't talk about the person from another institution that spoke to us about some possibilities that didn't work out. they just could meet all the criteria we needed. But then, I'll pick on Brenda Benny because I know her, but, you represent the, directors, group, I'll probably get the wording wrong, but, reaching out, and I don't know who made the initial contact with Dr. Alexander, but,
Dr.
Dr.
Smith.
Smith.
Mhm.
so we're grateful for y'all reaching out and making us know that we would be welcome at the conference center, and, so we're just grateful for people stepping forward like that. Another thing, and I know we don't respond to the public comments that are made, but Mason, I would say, we talked about trailers, and it's not so much anybody's against the idea, and I'm gonna, instead of trailers, we'll call them mobile classrooms.
Learning cottages.
Learning.
That's correct.
Stand corrected, yeah. When I was at the high school, we had to have learning colleges, we called them pioneer cabins. That's something that takes time to happen. And we've even been told there might be a shortage of availability of those learning cottages because of everybody now suddenly needing places for displaced students. So anyway, the plan that Dr. Alexander has presented to us, I think, is one that has come together very nicely for the circumstances we've been dealt. And we're grateful for all the work and the community stepping forward to try to make this happen very quickly for really decent facilities for our kids to go to and our teachers to be teaching again. So that's just a few comments I had. We probably need a motion to approve the plan. So that be for us, Mr. Attorney.
It would be, I think, the easiest thing to do, because it would encompass approving the plan, would just be to delegate, as the superintendent suggested, delegate the authority to the superintendent and to the chair to execute all lease and or license agreements to relocate the students to the Valle Crucis School. And nothing is going to be in the price range where the board would have to give formal approval. It's all within the superintendent's authority as far as the financial piece. So that's why I see no problem at all with her suggestion of delegating that to the chairman.
And that's concerning the signatures on leases
Leases
and license.
and license agreements,
How
and that
about
can
the,
encompass that, it can also encompass your temporary bus stops as well.
And that's all.
Yes, sir.
All right, now how about does the board need to take action in terms of approving the relocation of a student body to a different school facility?
Since it's an operational lease for temporary use, no, it's not a formal.
Does require official
Yes.
act of the board.
Well, that would again, Mr. Chairman, now that you bring that up, I think it probably would be appropriate to have two motions. The first would be to authorize the relocation of students to those two locations. And then the second motion to delegate the authority on the lease and license agreement. That would probably be best.
So recommend two motions.
Correct.
Approval to relocate students and then approval for superintendent and chair to sign lease and, or just the superintendent to sign. I might have drifted, both of us, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so, fellow board members, we'll see, a motion to approve the relocation of Valle Crucis School students to the sites that have been recommended. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I was gonna say, I know time is of the essence, and if we're gonna try to get everything in line, we need to go ahead and get this going, and everything. So I'd make a motion that we approve, that these relocations of these two locations that's been discussed here during the meeting.
I second it.
You want that, Dr. Fenwick have that second? So Dr. Fenwick seconds that. Any further discussion? The motion adequate?
It is.
So, hearing no further discussion, all in favor, those present raise your hand, and Dr. Fenwick, you'd have to verbally approve.
I vote in favor.
In favor, okay, so that's unanimous. Now we will entertain a motion to approve the superintendent and board chair to sign any lease and license agreements and bus,
Community stock
community stock agreements.
agreements, correct.
So would, someone be willing to make that motion?
So it started.
Okay, Dr. Stewart, I think I interrupted you.
No, I mean, I would certainly would be happy to make that motion, as you just worded it. That's,
You can say so moved, Dr. Finley.
So do we have a second? Second, Mr. Ashcraft, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, those present, raise your hand. And Dr. Finley, verbally?
I vote in favor of my motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So both are approved. We are grateful again for the work that has gone into this very difficult situation that's been dealt to our wonderful Valle Crucis School and community. We are confident a good education will be provided in these new locations until the time that we can move into our brand new facility there. I hope everyone, administration, faculty, staff, students, families, can somehow embrace this as an adventure and one with a lot of enthusiasm to move forward into. I know it's going to be a job, but I know also, my wife having worked at Valle Crucis School years ago, and one of my just dearest friends, Joe McNeil, being the principal there years ago, and knowing a lot of people in the community at Valle Crucis, I know the spirit of that community, and you all will make this work, and I'm confident of that. So just best wishes on it. Any other comment from board members before we move on to our next topic? Any other comment, Dr. Allen?
Thank you so much. I appreciate your flexibility and your willingness to move quickly on it.
And we appreciate your good work and the leadership team's good work. Okay, then we now move